Alright, this is a quick little intro. This will be a walkthrough of a Tridolon I did with the last limb time as 6 minutes 54 seconds. This is a personal best of mine, and I'm going to go through, hopefully, and walk through each stage. I'll upload the full 654 just on its own as well if you want to check that out. So, alright, let's get into it. Alright, so first thing you see me do right out the gate is I do the log quick charge, which I showed in the last video. You do this pretty much every time you leave the gate as a forward strike vault, and you can see that my DPS player goes to the right and does the east camp quick charge, which I also highlighted in the last video. This allows us to get a blue lure pretty much straight outside of the gate, so I can take the first terror limb as fast as possible.
And now, a massive sentient energy spike in your area. I advise you to be careful. That device is...
Alright, so what you saw there, basically, as I came out the gate, I went into void mode. And we don't leave void mode until we get to the terror list to maximize our stacks and maximize our damage. Then you saw me put my frame behind two shields and place a waypoint on the Warframe. I then procced Virtuous Shadow using head dashing into the terror list. I picked up Unari wisps, which were spawned by my DPS player, and then I lined up with the waypoint in a way where I was perfectly 2 meters away from my frame. I then shot the first proper, shot the second proper, and then a Raplac, all at a certain timing so that they explode pretty much at the same time. And that allowed me to take the shield basically instantly. The timing of that was 31.3 seconds of leaving the planes, which is it was fast enough for me to hit the 1 minute 23 terror list shrine.
You are directed to secure and employ additional Eidolon lures.
Alright, so up until this point, we've set up something called an overstack. And what we've done here, basically, we've shot off a certain amount of shots with our amp to make our void strike stacks 1 on the last limb. So basically, the way void strike works, it increases your multiplier when you leave void mode and takes away a stack when you shoot. However, the way the game works, if you hold void mode and shoot without letting go of void mode, it will take away your void strike stack and then increase your multiplier. So if you do this on the very last stack, you can go from 1 shot with 0 multiplier to then increasing that to 8 shots of 3 times multiplier. If you keep your eyes open in the top right of the screen during the clip, you'll be able to see the stacks actually increase to 8 with 3 times multiplier. So to make it simple, hold void mode and shoot without letting go of void mode, and you will what we call overstack. The reason we overstack is pretty much because the water shield of any Eidolon is a full health bar basically, so it's a much higher shield compared to any other time during the hunt. So we need much higher stacks to one-shot that shield. and without the overstack, it's really difficult to one-shot the shields.
Sentient energy contained. You are closing on victory. Act now.
Alright, so what you can see happen in the clip there is I'm setting up something called pre-shields. Pre-shields are basically shields on certain spots in Eidolon spawns as they come out the water. And it allows us to damage the Eidolon with our proper through these shields. So the shields double crit damage, obviously. They also prevent you from staggering yourself, and they allow the proper to instantly detonate on the floor. So how water shields work, the Eidolon's hitbox is actually on the land for some reason, even though it's in the water. So what you can do is blow the proper up on the land, and it allows you to break the shields.
Is insufficient. You are directed to secure and deploy additional Eidolon moves.
Alright, so here I'm going to cover two things at once, because they fall under the same category. One of them being Magus Melt, which is an operator arcane, and the other one being shield stacking with Volt. So how these two things work, they allow us to break limbs with the amp. So Magus Melt gives bonus heat damage to your amp, and you can build that up to 7 stacks. So when you shoot through a Volt shield, you're going to have bonus damage based on the crits, as well as the bonus damage from Magus Melt. And with Proper, that pushes you over the damage threshold to break the first few limbs of the Terrorist. Once we get to Gantulyst, our stacks are so high that we can just blow through the Gantulyst shields and limbs at the same time with the Raplak. We do it with Raplak because Raplak has highest crit chance, as well as, you know, crazy range, so you can shoot the top limbs easily. So what you see me do there is I place 6 Volt shields on top of each other, and then I shoot through it with the amp. So my DPS player has used Shattering Impact on the Vastalok and stripped the armor of the Eidolon. You might have been able to see the health bar go red at some point before I broke the limb. All that basically means is the armor is fully stripped, or we call it overstripped. So the Eidolon's health on its own has a weakness to electric damage, and obviously shields provide plus 50% electric damage when you shoot through them. 6 shields is obviously 6 times 50, which is 300% electric damage. And that allows us to blow through the limbs when you calculate in the void multiplier as well.
Sentient energy contained. You are closing on victory. Act now.
Alright, so what you saw there was basically something called pre-shadow and pre-wisp. So as the Gantulists and hydrolysts both get back up, a bunch of lists will spawn underneath them. Now, usually the DPS player, if they're like half decent at managing lures, they'll have enough blue lures either for the hydrolist or to almost finish the hydrolist, so that they won't actually need these lures, these foams, sorry. So what they can do is they can use the body of the Gantuilist as he begins to get back up again, and these foams that are on the ground, to spawn Unaru wisps for the VS player. And the VS player can dash into these foam lists and trigger Virtual Shadow before the next Eidolon spawns in. Now the reason this is useful is with water limbs, to get Virtual Shadow to proc, you often need to dash on a really specific spot or get really lucky with no shadow and a crit. Now the chance of that happening is, 50-50 is pretty low. And DPS player has to spawn a wisp by Void Blasting midair, and it also mitigates the need for DPS to spawn that wisp, which basically overall makes the water limb faster, and obviously speed is our main objective in this.
That device is insufficient. You are directed to secure and employ additional Eidolon lures.
Alright, and so the last part of this run is basically the hydrolist. Now the hydrolist is just piecing everything together. You get a nice water limb, and you have to really be consistent on all of the limbs. Do not do what I do and zero. All that basically means is I shot the Raplac too early, before the shield was actually vulnerable. Never do that. Do whatever you can to not zero. I mean, even if you shoot late, it's better than shooting early. So yeah, but the rest of this run is basically just, breaking the limbs, etc.
Sentient energy contained. You are closing on victory. Act now. Sunrise nears. Sentient retreats. Strike now, for in moments the future decides itself.